Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery preparing to check in on a couple worm bins, a couple red wiggler worm bins that I refer to as buddy bins. And before we get started, I've got some info about the systems to share with you. A lot of times I'll just go through this together, reading everything off, but if you're interested in the specs, you can see it right there. The main reason I wanted to jot some information down on this was more of a reminder for myself pertaining to a couple things in these systems that I wanted to try not to forget to do. Number one was that I gave them a couple plums last time, but those plums went in whole straight out of the freezer. I didn't even try cutting them up or anything. So I believe that each system's going to have a plum pit in it, which I'm going to try to extract. And then the other thing that's totally slipped my mind because we haven't bumped into it so long is the cork. A cork that's been floating around from system to system to system in many of my bins over the years and has most recently made it into the older of these two systems. And we haven't seen it in quite some time because the last time we did bump into it, it was getting pretty puny. So I thought that perhaps we can try to remain conscious of the fact that the older system, which is right here, let me show you the systems I'm talking about. The older system is the one that's got the cork in it. And if we can bump into it, then it would be kind of interesting to check out what kind of progress it's making. The cork had always held together years and years and years, I'm talking, without showing any signs of wear. And then more recently, over the past few months, it seems like we've actually started to notice pieces of it chipping off, going missing. I would typically not want to fiddle with it or try to break any pieces apart or anything. Things that I'm trying to observe the natural breakdown process of, such as the cork, I don't meddle with. So I've got these coffee filters that we could repurpose as supplemental bedding to accompany the feeding. I've also got 2 paper towels, 2 napkins, and the feeding that they're going to be getting. The reason I'm repurposing the old feeding zone indicators, the old coffee filters, is because I got nice new ones to give them, as well as this nice big generous portion of cucumber. We're probably going to see some leftover banana peels because past couple feedings they've been getting banana peel. So I figured let's give them a little change of pace. I got a whole bunch of banana peel in the freezer, so I thought that perhaps they would get yet another portion of banana peel today, but I figured, you know what, let's give them cucumber instead. So it is kind of nice to see how the surface is getting a little bit drier thanks to the paper coverings we put on here. We removed the plastic coverings that were on these systems to give the systems a little bit of a chance to begin getting drier. They're still super heavy, indicating to me that there's still perhaps a bit more moisture in here than is needed. A lot of times the other telltale of that is the fairly large number of these white little specks that we could see all over the place, which those are all springtails. Ooh, okay. I was curious to see if maybe this could be the cork by chance, and I figured if I were to squeeze it, then there would be that springiness to the material. The shape of it seemed about right. It doesn't have that nice neat cylindrical shape anymore like a nice new cork would. It's more I mean, I don't even know what it looks like today, but last time we saw it, it was definitely missing bits and pieces. And we're starting to run into the gourd. The gourd, which I don't know, just super slow substance, taking just short of forever to break down. So we've already contemplated in recent check-ins the potential of these just getting removed and kind of forgetting about the whole gourd adventure just because they are such a slow-moving substance. Although in recent check-ins we've been starting to notice a little bit of flexibility in some of them. This thinner one definitely showing signs of flexibility, but this thicker one hardly wants to give at all. I've already bumped into a few objects which were clearly leftovers of banana peel. I already saw a pumpkin stem, which I didn't really do much about. This is even a piece of gourd right here, but we held off on not continuing to break it apart last time, but if we wanted to, we certainly could. Last time I started chipping off pieces of it because it was so soft and easy to break away that I figured, hey, if we can, then why not? But I'm thinking at this point, if there are any portions of this gourd that will allow me to bust them apart, then I'm going to take that opportunity to just start reducing the amount of gourd type material that we keep bumping into in here. Because if it's already been broken up into those little itsy bitsy pieces like I just did, it's not going to keep becoming something that I want to pull out and take a closer look at. So now the plum, here it is. These plums I thought would be super duper popular, but when I saw, because I had a few of them, but when I saw how they were taking their nice sweet time to break down in some other systems, I started to wonder if between a slow going plum and some fairly slow going banana peels, whether these worms were still finding enough food substance to nibble on in here. Because as you can see, the better part of this plum is still here, and it might take a few check-ins for that thing to finally kick into high gear and start breaking down, but until that happens, it's not much of a not much of a food item for the wormies in here, making me wonder if perhaps we would want to take that into account and make sure we're giving them stuff that they could work on while that stuff becomes primed and ready for consumption. So the gourd, I don't know, I should ask you guys too, are you bored with the gourd? I made certain comments in the past suggesting that the gourds were really beginning to really lose my interest. And it was at that point that I already started hinting at the potential of us wanting to maybe pull them out of here and kind of forget about the whole gourd adventure. As far as a mango seed goes, though, I'm all about letting the mango seeds continue, even though they're probably just as slow going as a gourd. And here and there I'm finding little fragments of gourd. Once again, like I said earlier, if I can break these things up so that they stop registering as a object of interest worth picking up and fiddling with, then that's probably a good thing. So I don't know if you're starting to get into that same bored with the gourd kind of mindset, and you wouldn't be upset if the gourd suddenly just didn't show up anymore in these check-ins, then please feel free to let me know and kind of possibly help steer the direction of things in a way that maintains interest and doesn't allow us to get sidetracked with things that aren't very interesting. So we've definitely taken a good bit of time putzing around in the older system, never really encountering anything that resembled the cork, unfortunately, but I'm certainly not going to spend even more time trying to hunt it down. At this point I figured let's just press on, get on with giving these little guys their delicious cucumber meal. But before we could do that, we would want to extract a nice little space for that meal to fit down into the feeding zone. But I'd also like to try to accomplish that little mini mission of pulling out the pit, with the assumption that we're probably going to bump into the plum not yet eaten. Here's some more banana leftovers. Sometimes you get caught off guard. You're expecting to find leftovers and then you're unable to find them, and it kind of makes you wonder, is it possible that one system managed to completely break down an object that the other system just made virtually no progress on? Because look at that. If I'm not mistaken, this is a plum pit. I could be wrong, I'm not sure, but I'm going to set it aside. It only feels like a half of a plum pit. And I don't recall feeding plum in the distant past. I guess only half of a plum pit showing up would suggest that another half of it is still floating around somewhere nearby, because it would have just been placed right there in the middle as part of the last feeding. But I'm not finding it. It's not the sort of thing worth dispatching a search party for or going on a wild goose chase after, but I just figured if it was going to be really obvious and simple to grab it and pull it out, then I would. But it's just one of those things that's not going to go very far. And I wonder if this could be something similar. I don't know. Very tough substance. Doesn't look right, but perhaps it is. Maybe we just succeeded in getting the plum pit out of here. Perhaps it was just one of those sort of pits that wants to break into two chunks, and the two chunks don't have a similar appearance. So let's move on here. We got stuff that we want to repurpose. We've got these old feeding zone indicators, which can now become supplemental bedding. And you know, every other system that I have that's older than these has already been sent down the road of foraging, which just means no new bedding. And as I add bedding into here, I wonder if that might be in the cards for these systems pretty soon too, you know, because the two bins that are older than these, that are foraging already, have been foraging for more than 2 months. So this could very well be one of the final applications of bedding that these systems get anymore. But we'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. Here's another thing that I thought for a moment could be a plum pit just based on its shape, but I believe it's just a pumpkin seed. So yeah, every now and then I just look at these pieces of gourd and I go back to thinking, do I really want to continue fiddling with these things and working around them, or is it time for them to just be removed and forget about it? Perhaps leaving one of these more fragile, softer ones that's about to go to pieces, taking out all these other ones that are super thick. That might be the way to go. And if it's true that the plum in the younger system got completely consumed, that's kind of surprising, because there's a whole lot of it remaining here in the older system. Older, younger, did I get those mixed up? I'm not sure. So there's, this thing just came out of the freezer, and this end of it was already rotting away practically, still within the shrink wrap plastic. So got demoted from human food status to becoming worm food. And the coffee, a couple days worth of coffee, one of them just came out of the machine, was pretty warm just a moment ago, was still also quite damp and dripping when I pulled it out of the machine a moment ago. So I worried if my little container here had a crack that might cause the draining coffee to come out of it and leak. So I'm going to opt for going kind of skimpy on the bedding, with giving them only those things that we gave them there. I guess we could have been a little bit more generous, but I suppose perhaps it is time to start getting these little guys geared up for foraging, getting them used to the withholding of bedding as part of their check-ins, and start to get them used to the idea of working down residual leftover bedding that's still floating around within the systems, rather than expecting to get more and more fresh bedding. And man, oh man, the level in these systems, once I add a little bit of additional new stuff, once I aerate and till all the material, wow, look at all those worms. Seems like it all gets fluffed up and gets much more voluminous, taking up more area, more volume rather. Area is a very two-dimensional thinking expression. And here we've got to think in 3 dimensions, and perhaps the most important one is the level as it approaches the rim. Makes me nervous. Makes me feel like if I'm not paying close attention while I'm moving stuff around and tilling things up, I could easily send a handful of material and worms and all kinds of other stuff over the edge onto the floor, resulting in a bunch of very unhappy worms being ejected from their cozy home. And man, that was kind of fun, tilling this one up with all these worms in it. Nice busy bin. Once again, feeling like I've raised the level in both systems by quite a bit, just by aerating and doing what we've done here. But I think we're pretty much at the finish line here. Let's just make sure we don't have any hitchhikers stuck to my gloves. Some of these worms on my gloves are very, very tiny, very easy to overlook. Wouldn't want them to also run the risk of being displaced from their cozy home and ending up in a dry, dangerous spot. So I usually take care to make sure I'm not doing anything irresponsible. So that's it for the check-in now with the buddy bins. Doing pretty nice in here, and getting a little bit drier, I must say. A little bit more flaky, a little bit more crumbly, still sticking to my glove, which is usually a sign of perhaps a little bit more moisture than we need, but that's okay. I think we're on the road to recovery. Not that it's so dangerous, and a couple decisions to be made here. Do we get the gourds out of here? Do we switch to foraging, stop giving them bedding? I don't know. We'll have to make those decisions in future check-ins. So that's it for the check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.